What is going on, YouTube? It is the Gamer here, back with another video. Today we are following the story of Neville Suleks, brother of a certain influencer that stole all the attention from the gains he was getting in the background. This is our protagonist. Join us on his story of the apocalypse. In this world, no zombies will respawn. Can we clear the whole map? Join us in the journey of Neville's death. His morning starts off like every other morning, watching Lifestyle and Living before he eats and goes to the gym. Neville never misses a day in the gym. He's almost ritualistic in his ways. Even if he's sick or dying, he'll still be in there, getting his gains. As his show goes on break, he gets up to cook himself some fish and eat a pickle for vitamins. As he eats his fish, he continues watching his show, already starting to feel the urge to smoke a cigarette. That is another ritual that Neville keeps close to him. In that moment, everything seemed fine, until his show was interrupted by a national emergency. Something about infected and don't get bitten. He rushes to his room but couldn't find his keys. He must have left them outside when he got drunk last night. As he goes outside, he sees many lifeless figures through the fog. Damn it! The door won't open. He looks in the bed for his trusty tire iron, but it's not there. As one of the infected start walking towards him, he tries to back away, but it follows. Stay away! Get back! He shoves. Even after knocking her down, she relentlessly comes after Neville. Toppling over the fence, Neville takes his chance as he feels the pop under his foot. Neville knows he needs protection, so he grabs the leather coat, trying to prevent bites or scratches, hopefully keeping him alive. Even more infected start coming after him as he sees a firefighter. Even the first responders are turned. What could this mean for society, he thought. After he stomps out the firefighter, he decides to try to get the infected to fall over the fence. The infected were deadly, but pretty dumb. It seems they travel in groups. This must be the hordes that the government was talking about. As Neville keeps on stomping and stomping, his ankle starts to hurt. With brains stuck to his shoe, making it slippery, he knew he needed something more sturdy. So he goes back to the fireman and takes his boots and clothes for better bite resistance. Now that he has more protection, he goes back to looking for his keys. Anxiety through the roof. He doesn't know if it's from the infected or the fact that he missed 2 of his rituals in one day. He still has not smoked a cigarette, and he doesn't know when he'll be back to his beloved gem. He sees a fruit stand in the distance, a part of him hoping there would be something to smoke. Even though he knew there wasn't, he still needed food if he was going to survive the apocalypse. He sees his friend George in the distance and yells out, just to find that even one of his good friends has been turned, making him very sad. He takes what fruit he can, knowing they won't stay fresh forever, and decides to eat his sadness away. As he leaves the stand, he sees a big group of infected, probably due to his preemptive yell to George. He can't take it anymore. He needs to process this. His mind is racing as the last 5 hours have turned his life upside down. He starts to walk towards his neighbor's house. It seems to have been in a fire, but what he really needs is the car. He can't seem to get inside the car and loot, as zombies keep coming.
Where the hell are they coming from?
He cries, frustrated. He tries to take them out, but is quickly overrun. He is becoming weaker in his panic state. He tries to walk away. But in his delirium, he decides to go inside the house. Walking to a dead end, he traps himself. He goes through the window, barely escaping the death trap. All the infected start pouring through the window, so he takes them out one by one. Until he was swarmed again. He had to retreat. He had to get a simple reset, or he could die right here. In his weak state, he can barely push the zombie over. He has never felt so weak in his life, other than to his brother Sam. Finally, being able to rest and process what has happened, he still can't wrap his head around the many infected he has killed. Once human beings just like him. He starts thinking of his mom and dad and his brother, wondering if they are okay. Wondering when he can finally smoke. And of course, when will the gym open back up? These questions remained in his head, but he remembers he needs to stay moving. He needs to find a car. He finds a tire iron, just like the one he used. He misses his tire iron, but this will do. He sees more cars down the street, but he needs to clear the zombies that he hears around him. The iron has a certain feel to it that makes Neville sick to his stomach when it crashes into bone. But he knows he has to do what he can to survive. He tries to get a zombie's attention, but it seems to be a little deaf. He must go inside to clear the house. After clearing the house, he grabs the backpack off the zombie. This will be handy to hold his gun and other heavy items he has acquired. He also keeps noticing how sad he is, a constant depression looming over his head. So he decides he needs to eat some protein. He looks in the fridge and finds a pickle for those dang vitamins. He also finds a pork chop. He looks in the freezer and finds some beef with some fish. A good find. He decides to cook all of it now and do some bulking. As he is eating, he hears another infected start banging on the back door. So he packs his stuff and goes outside to check to see if the car works in the front. He finds the keys inside. What a great find. But sadly, the car was out of gas and wouldn't start. As he was headed to the house, he comes upon zombies. This one was also deaf. He hears more inside, but he knows he has to clear before he loots. As he heads inside, he takes a chance to finally wash off all the death. And he has to quench his thirst before he gets back to looting. He goes to check the fridge and finds another pickle and some raw oysters. He slurped it down raw and decided to go check the garage for some gas. He really needs nothing else but this car, any car, to where he can get out of this bloody town. He hears more. He has to stop looting. It seems he can never get anything done without more of the dead just wandering towards him. As he finally obliterates a small neighborhood, it's finally safe to go loot the garage. It didn't seem like he was going to be lucky enough to find a gas can, but at least he found an electrical book. As he goes out, he's hoping, praying that one of these cars has gas. But first, he remembers that the firefighter he killed at the beginning of this journey had a gas mask. He couldn't stand the smell of death anymore, so he runs. As he finally reaches the mask, he can actually think without wanting to vomit. He decides to go across the street to the construction site, hoping to find more crowbars, hopefully tire irons, or even a sledgehammer. But sadly, there was nothing there. So he heads to the fruit stand. He always needs more vitamins. As he tries to clear the zombies, he is too weak, too depressed, too anxious. Everything is swarming through his mind. He can barely even kill the zombies anymore. He needs to take off all these clothes, but he has other worries. More and more zombies are surrounding him. He finally decides to go back and check the cars for gas. He does end up finding the vehicle key, but he already knows it's too trash to drive. This vehicle was totaled. All he could hope now was that there was gas in the tank. Nothing. He already knew that if it could go wrong, it's going to. But he tries to stay optimistic as his depression looms over his head. All he wants is water and a cigarette, and maybe to pump some iron. But for now, he's stuck looking for gas. As he was trying to see if there was gas, he didn't hear the zombie behind him. He runs. He has to check if he was bit. Luckily, it was only a laceration on his head. He could live as long as he kept the infection away. As he turns to look into the zombie that almost took his life, he realizes he needs to look closely at what's going on around him. He cannot zone out no more, or he won't be alive much longer. He is still too weak, and now that he's in pain, he can't even think straight. But he knows he has to get shelter and wash off the wound before it gets infected. He decides to let his bandage get dirty before he takes it off. So he just rests and reads his electrical book so he can hopefully hotwire cars one day. All Neville can think about is finally going to sleep and putting this day of hell to rest. But he's in too much pain and can't. He finally decides that he needs to find painkillers or at least some sort of sleep medication. So he goes to loot the house next door, hoping that the dead are nowhere to be found. He sees that the house has already been broken into or out of. The glass says that the zombies came in, so he's immediately on edge, already almost losing his life once today. As he loots, he finds the key to the van outside. He already knows it doesn't have any gas. He thinks maybe it might start, but he won't get far. As he goes up the stairs, he hears one of the dead. He doesn't know what door it's behind, but he knows it's upstairs. He finds some alcohol wipes. Those will come in handy in disinfecting. Still no zombie. It has to be this door. He runs. Nothing. Until it comes after him. Even though he is weak, he can still handle a zombie. Let's just hope there's only one, and no one heard him kill. Not really finding anything useful, he decides to loot the van and see if it starts. He doesn't know if it'll start, but at this point all he can do is hope. All Neville can think about is sleep, so he decides to lock himself in this room, even though the house doesn't have a door. But first he has to clean his wound. As he disinfects, he starts bleeding all over the place. And then he realizes he doesn't have a bandage to put back on it. He needs to find a clean bandage. He decides to look for clothing and just rip it into a bandage. Finally bandaged it to stop the bleeding, but now he has even more pain He doesn't know when this nightmare will end. Still, not being able to sleep, Neville decides to go loot the houses behind this neighborhood. They seemed pretty nice, and hopefully, some of them had meds. So he begins the long journey, still hoping there's no hordes between him and sweet rest. The pain throbbing in his head. He still didn't even know if this plan was a good idea, or if he should have just stayed in the room, waiting for morning. But he was already outside the house, and he already heard the dead. After killing the zombie inside, he hears more on the perimeter, but he didn't know there was this many. They were already at his door. Neville thinks he might be too weak, so he decides to come up with a plan. He will outrun them, and then hide and hopefully slide into the house. But as he continues walking, more and more zombies add to the horde. Maybe just one more time around, he thought. I'll go slower, so they can all catch me. And then more from behind start catching attention. He starts to panic and second guess himself. Neville remembers playing lots of Call of Duty. Zombies was one of his favorite game modes, so he begins to train them. He never really thought he would be doing this in real life, though. He does see a zombie with a duffel bag, but it is too dangerous to go for. Maybe tomorrow he will try to get the duffel bag, but for now, he needs to run. The plan did seem to work, but one zombie still found him. Luckily, he didn't get bit this time. He's too weak to even kill the zombie. He knows it's making too much noise. Even in the safety of the house, he hears more zombies on the outside, and even more behind him. As he hears the glass break, he says, I have to just go back. He forfeits the plan. He hopes that he's able to get inside this house safely without the zombies following him. He tries to cut off their sight lines. but he can barely stand anymore. So as soon as he goes inside, he tries and goes to sleep, hoping he wouldn't hear the glass break before morning. Thanks everybody for watching the first episode of Suleks' story in the apocalypse. This video is pretty fun to make. It took a while, a lot of retries with the voiceovers, but if you stay till the end, make sure y'all leave a like. Make sure to leave a comment on any other games y'all want to see me play, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss that next video. And I'll see y'all there. Peace out.